Welcome to part 4 of Sustainable Finance. In the last chapter, we looked at corporate social responsibility, what CSR actually is, the forms it takes, and some concrete examples of firms doing it well and doing it badly. That naturally raises a very hard question, and it's the one we spend this whole chapter on. If a company tells you it is socially responsible, how would you ever know whether that's true? How do you put a number on something as fuzzy as responsibility? This is the problem of CSR measurement, and it is far trickier than it first appears. By the end of these 3 videos, you'll understand why it's so difficult, what methods people have invented to get around that difficulty, and why you should treat every CSR score you ever see with a healthy dose of caution. And a quick aside before we get properly underway, if you enjoy this video, do consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the ones still to come. Here's where we are in the course as a whole. We began with the syllabus, then contrasted responsible and sustainable investors with the traditional shareholder value view. Last time we covered CSR, its forms and practical examples. Today we're on the 4th item, CSR measurement. And notice what comes straight after it: sustainability reporting and CSR and ESG ratings. That ordering is deliberate. You can't sensibly talk about reporting standards and rating agencies until you've grappled with the underlying measurement problem, because ratings are simply one industrial answer to the question we're about to open up. So think of this chapter as the conceptual groundwork for everything that follows on data, disclosure, and scores. And let me set out what you should take away from this chapter. First, I want you to understand why measuring CSR engagement properly actually matters. That it isn't just an academic exercise, but something with real consequences for firms, investors, and regulators. Second, and this is the honest part, I want you to appreciate the inherent difficulty here. There is no agreed academic or industrial standard for evaluating CSR, and that creates genuine uncertainty in everything built on top of it. And third, you'll get to know a range of different measurement approaches, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. By the end, you should be able to look at any CSR metric and ask the right skeptical questions about how it was produced. To guide us, here are the central questions that structure the chapter. Why are we interested in measuring CSR in the first place? What's the point? In which concrete situations do we actually need metrics of CSR? Which different methods exist for producing those metrics? What exactly do those methods measure? Which dimensions, which variables of CSR do they capture, and which do they quietly ignore? And finally, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each measure compared with the others? Keep that last question especially in mind, because there is no perfect method here. Every approach trades something off, and understanding those trade-offs is really the heart of this whole topic. So let's start with a definition. CSR measurement means, quite simply, the different ways to quantify the performance of organizations in the field of corporate social responsibility. We want to take something qualitative, a company's social and environmental conduct, and turn it into numbers we can compare, track, and act on. But listen to how Ray, writing in 2013, frames the challenge. He says the different ways to measure CSR have been complicated by the fact that the very definition of the concept is unclear and contradictory. Notice what that means. The difficulty isn't merely technical, like a measurement instrument that's a bit imprecise. It's conceptual. We're trying to measure something we can't even agree on the definition of, like being asked to measure someone's height when nobody can agree where the head ends and the sky begins. That's the situation we're in, and it will haunt every method we discuss. Despite that difficulty, there are good reasons firms bother to measure CSR at all. So let's go through them. Measurement lets a firm disclose the importance of its activities to its stakeholders and its customers. It makes the invisible visible. It also improves internal decision-making as firms develop and refine their CSR programs over time. You can't manage what you don't over time. You can't manage what you don't measure. And it lets firms align their CSR activities with concrete corporate goals, such as reducing staff turnover or developing employees' skills. More broadly, measurement offers valuable insights to stakeholders and investors who want to understand what a company is really doing. And there are reputational advantages too. Demonstrating genuine social performance can boost long-term business performance and shape customer preferences in the firm's favor. So measurement isn't just box ticking, it feeds directly into strategy and reputation. Let me add two more reasons because they've become increasingly important. Organizations are steadily realizing the sheer range of benefits that strong social impact work can bring. The myriad benefits, as the slide puts it. In particular, companies with strong corporate social performance are more likely to attract investors and more likely to retain top talent. Think about that from an employee's point of view. Skilled people increasingly want to work for organizations whose values they share, and they'll stay longer when they feel that way. And from an investor's point of view, strong social performance is read as a signal of a well-run, forward-looking firm. So measuring CSR isn't only about looking good. It connects to two of the scarcest resources any company competes for: capital and talent. Now for the other side of the ledger, the problems, and there are several. We've already met the deepest one. Because the definition of CSR is unclear and contradictory, there are many competing ways to measure it, and no single one is authoritative. Underneath that, there's no systematic conceptual basis, no agreed theory telling us what the right building blocks even are. Then there's comparability. Certain programs run by one firm simply don't exist in another. So how do you compare a company that funds local schools with one that cuts factory emissions? They're doing different things entirely. On top of that, many companies genuinely struggle to measure the effects of their CSR at all. And crucially, many of the benefits, customer loyalty and improved reputation, are intangible and hard to quantify. When the payoff itself resists measurement, it becomes very difficult to assess the true value of what a firm is doing. Here's a further problem, and it's a pointed one, from Diaz-Canamero and co-authors in 2020. ESG rating agencies and sustainability index managers do promote best corporate practices in favor of sustainable development. That's real, and it's valuable. But the authors remind us these are not NGOs. They do not do this selflessly. They are commercial businesses that sell ratings, licenses, and index products, and they profit from the whole apparatus of CSR measurement. Now, that doesn't automatically make their work wrong or biased, but it should make you thoughtful. The very organizations producing the scores that shape billions in investment have a commercial stake in there being scores to sell. Keep that in the back of your mind whenever we talk about ratings later in the course. The measurers have interests too. So if we pull these threads together, what are firms actually trying to achieve when they measure their CSR? The slide lists 4 goals, and they're worth being honest about. First, to seek recognition for best CSR practices, to be acknowledged as a leader. Second, to gain a reputational advantage compared with competitors. Third, to use CSR as a marketing instrument. Quite openly, measurement generates numbers that go into brochures and campaigns. And fourth, with a deliberate question mark on the slide, to satisfy a regulatory requirement. That question mark matters. At the time much of this framing was developed, mandatory CSR measurement was still emerging rather than settled, and regulation has since moved rapidly. But notice that most of these goals are about how the firm is perceived, not purely about doing good for its own sake. Let's now see how measurement has evolved, because that history explains why it's so complicated today. And I'm again drawing on Diaz-Canamero and colleagues. In the past, corporate social performance was measured in a wonderfully simple way. You just counted the amount of money a company donated to specific social projects. More donations, better firm. Clean, quantifiable, easy. But look at how much has changed. Nowadays, CSR involves a combination of many social and environmental variables, tangled up with complex relationships among a whole web of stakeholders. A single dollar figure of charity can't possibly capture that. So there's now a need for far more sophisticated tools that can handle multiple dimensions at once. The move from counting donations to measuring a multidimensional construct is exactly what makes modern CSR measurement so hard and so contested. And out of that need, a whole ecosystem of initiatives has grown up, again following Diez-Canamero and co-authors. We've seen the rise of social accounting, of sustainability reporting, of dedicated performance indicators, of environmental and social standards, and of the ESG ratings provided by rating agencies. This is the machinery the field built to cope with CSR's complexity, and much of it we'll return to later. But here's the key organizing point for the next video. When researchers looked back at how CSR has actually been measured in practice, they found 4 methods used again and again: the disclosure method, reputational indices or scales, forced choice questionnaire surveys, and single dimension-based measures. Those 4 are the classic toolkit, and in the next video, we'll take each one apart, how it works, and where it falls short. Let me recap. We've established that CSR measurement means turning a firm's social and environmental performance into numbers, and that this is genuinely hard because the very concept of CSR is unclear and contradictory, with no agreed conceptual basis. We saw why firms measure anyway: for decision-making, for stakeholders and investors, for reputation, and to compete for capital and talent. We noted the problems: poor comparability, intangible benefits, and rating agencies that are commercial actors, not charities. And we traced the history from simply counting donations to today's ecosystem of reporting, indicators, standards, and ratings. That history left us with 4 classic measurement methods. In the next video, we'll examine all 4: social ratings, the disclosure method, questionnaire surveys, and single dimension measures, together with their strengths and their weaknesses. See you there. Thank you for joining me. If it was worth your while, a quick subscribe keeps you connected to the rest of the course.